It's the height of the HIV/AIDS crisis.
Legal protections for the LGBT community are minimal and ineffective.
Who will serve as the legal voice for the LGBT community during its most urgent hour of need?
An organization that would allow us to protect ourselves.
To create opportunity, hope, and a community based on equality under the law.
To help realize the dream, to prohibit discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation.
Thousands gather for the Lesbian and Gay March on Washington.
The idea is whispered and a dialogue begins.
The loss in Bowers v. Hardwick in 1986 was a very bitter loss, and much of it was back to the drawing board to try to advance our rights.
This was monumental, not just because those laws were harmful, and they were. They put people in second-class citizenship, because if you were open about your relationship, about your life, your family, you could be fired for that, or you were branded a felon.
I think there was a sense that we were under attack on many fronts. And people really wanted to come together and find some way to fight back, to be really a community of lawyers.
Here I was, the only openly gay attorney in New Jersey, dealing with lots of complex issues, and really had no one to turn to talk to.
There was a very large march, obviously, in that year, and a lot came out of it, including the impetus to start the Lavender Law Conference.
Abby and Bill and I somehow connected. Abby was the legal director of the Lambda Legal Defense Fund, and Bill was the head of an organization in Los Angeles, I think. And I think I was a co-chair of the gay subcommittee of the DC Bar. We didn't have gay law back then. And the three of us got together and decided, oh, let's have a meeting.
We collected our lists and invited people to a conference room in a hotel in Washington. And we got a room for about 100 people. We expected about 50 to show up, and about 300 attorneys showed up.
People were pretty excited about the opportunity to get together and the potential to set something up so that we could continue meeting. And it's in the context of a very different world than now.
The National Gay and Lesbian Lawyers Association is formed.
The first Lavender Law Conference is held at Golden Gate University in San Francisco.
Ron Albers, who is from San Francisco, who I believe is now a Superior Court judge, agreed to host a meeting to start organizing the organization on a more formal basis.
Had several dozen participants. We mostly knew each other. There were not a lot of law students. There were some. There were not a lot of law firms. There were some. There were some law professors, some activists.
And it was pretty incredible attending as a law student, because it gave you a chance to be bonding with other people. It really felt like the beginning of a movement, that there was a movement afoot.
And the panels ran the gamut. There were some that were heady, theoretical discussions of the nature of privacy and liberty and equality and free speech, to some very practical things like drafting wills for people with AIDS.
At the time that the first lawyers got together for the first Lavender Law Conference, I am presuming there was a sense of true urgency, because we were losing an entire generation of lawyers.
There was always an effort to try to figure out how to provide practical advice for folks who were simply trying to help LGBT people in communities wide and far, and also be intellectual.
It was a bar association that was for us, for our issues, and that could bring us together every couple of years for support, for ideas. I still have the materials from the first NLGLA, from the first Lavender Law Conference.
These conferences were the places where people would get together in the absence of all of the internet resources we have today and other ways of transmitting information and documents quickly and easily. Really, it was all then, it made those conferences really critical for building those kinds of connections and networks.
In order for people to recognize civil rights for us, we had to not be criminals first. So we had to sort of plot the decriminalization of the sodomy laws state by state.
The dialogue continues.
Where after Hardwick?
Contested custody litigation.
Military law for gays and lesbians.
Will the American Bar Association support legislation to prohibit discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation?
The first success of the organization was the status of becoming an affiliate with the American Bar Association.
When we first applied, for status as an affiliate, we were turned down by the American Bar Association, which was devastating.
You know, once the American Bar Association recognized us as an affiliate organization, I think that made a huge difference for our credibility in the profession and made it a lot easier, especially for those of us that live in, you know, the flyover states, as I call it.
It became more of a professional organization. The association became connected with the American Bar Association, became legitimate in a different kind of way.
It started as an organization that was an umbrella organization of local lawyers groups, and it was putting on a law conference every other year. Eventually it grew to an organization that was really a bar association made up of members. The conference became annual, and that turned it into something where national leaders were coming to speak about the cutting edge issues.
It really does start to change in the 90s as more and more people were out, and it became sort of more accepted that people could work in a real law firm, an establishment law firm, and be an out attorney.
We see how far we've come.
25 years later, 13 states and the District of Columbia have legalized marriage for same-sex couples.
But our fight continues.
Our work isn't done.
Our journey has just started.
I was at that first career fair in Philadelphia in 2002, attending the Lavender Law Conference. It was the first time I think there had ever really been a job fair organized specifically for LGBT law school graduates. It was not a very crowded job fair. There weren't necessarily a lot of students or a lot of employers.
The number of participants has just almost doubled, I want to say, since the first career fair that I went to. And the topics that we're talking about cover a broader range of things that touch LGBT attorneys.
When I go to the Lavender Law Conference and I see, 1,000 law firms, I don't know how many, I mean, there's so many of them, who are interviewing people. And as some of us just walk around and we just kind of look at each other and say, oh my God, I don't believe this.
Look, those of us who've been doing this for a long time aren't going to be around forever. I mean, we depend on a new generation of law students and lawyers to not only pursue the old theories, but develop new theories that will support gay and lesbian people in the lives they're actually leading. And there's going to be lots of work to do in that regard.
This generation faces new challenges.
And those challenges need champions.
We were able to secure someone from the White House who works in the President's Office of Personnel, who is a Howard Law alum, and I got their contact through Lavender Law.
Through NLGLA, we started the Family Law Institute for family law attorneys to come together and do a little bit more sophisticated discussions for a full day at Lavender Law.
But we thought we would never get to the military during our lifetimes, and we thought we would never get to marriage during our lifetimes. We thought that was for a different decade, maybe even a different century.
The scope has changed tremendously. I mean, we were literally facing issues of, you know, whether gays could adopt. I mean, that was something that only recently changed in the state that I'm from in Florida 2 years ago. And now we're talking about how do transgender persons participate in the military. I mean, I think that's a whole different conversation.
There's a lot of work to do. You know, some people say to me, oh, well, after we win marriage, it'll be all over. And it's like, not by any means, I'm afraid. There is a lot on our agenda still.
Once marriage equality is achieved, a lot of the attention of Lavender Law will probably shift to other discriminations or other frontiers.
We are changing as a movement. We are coming into our own, but there is so much more still to be done.
The LGBT Bar Association is your place.
To meet with colleagues, to share our struggles,
to grow our strengths,
to make a difference for the LGBT community of today
and of tomorrow.
The greatest success of the National LGBT Bar Association is its people. We really have something for everyone now at Lavender Law.
Every person that we have participating in the movement and the community is an asset to us.
LGBT Bar Association helps create opportunities for that access, for that networking, for that professional development. Our association focuses on helping and creating resources for the legal professional who's out there at the forefront.
Celebrate the National LGBT Bar Association's 25th anniversary.
Help us realize equality for all under the law.
Because this is just the beginning.